Good evening and a very warm welcome to this week's Out and About. As the coronavirus situation in India continues to develop, we'll be speaking to a number of doctors on the programme over the coming weeks who'll share all the latest news with us. This week, we're joined on the programme by Dr. Dileep Srinivasan, who comes to us from Ahmedabad. Dr. Dileep, thank you very much for joining us here on Out and About. We now know that the UK has started to send aid out to India, but there's a lot of questioning about where these supplies are really going. From your perspective, are you starting to see any of these arriving in hospitals?
First of all, Vishal, let me thank you for having me on Out and About. The unfortunate part is we are not out and about yet in India. Right now, we are shut down in our homes, most of us. As a doctor, yes, I can get to the hospital and come back, but that's about it. As far as the aid goes from the UK and from the other countries as well, we have seen it coming in on the flights. We have seen the flights arriving. We have seen visuals of it on the TV. We are yet to see it in our city itself, but that could be because of a different reason, because all this aid is generally routed to the Delhi, to New Delhi, and from there it is again redistributed to the other states. So we might see a slight delay in the arriving of those helpfuls. And thank you all so much for wholeheartedly contributing. We are too grateful. There are no words to express our gratitude.
It sounds like India is in great need of a number of supplies. What would you say the key things are that India really is in desperate need of?
India really is in desperate need of doctors and medical staff. It is also in desperate need of oxygen concentrators and oxygen. But what is the bit below the waterline of the iceberg is they're not having enough staff, enough qualified staff to treat the patients. And there is a certain panic that is there amongst people who, once they see that they are COVID positive, then everybody wants to rush to the hospital to take a bed. Many of the times this is not required. Many of the times all that you need to do is consult a doctor on the phone, and there are phone facilities available, telemedicine which is quite available. To just consult, take the medicines which are recommended and stay at home. But staying at home sometimes leads to panic, and they all want to rush. So it increases the load on the doctors. So that's where the problem lies.
But doctor, I guess how would somebody really know if they should be a stay-at-home patient or if they should be indeed a hospital patient?
See, normally a patient, normally people are reluctant to have themselves tested because they feel that the moment they get diagnosed as positive, they will be ostracized and they will not be allowed outside the home. Everybody will look at them with fear if they know that they are positive and they're appearing outside. So people don't want to get tested. But those who run a fever or are running intractable cough get themselves tested. Many times the family members don't want to get tested, which is again a very difficult thing. We have to explain to the family and that all of you have to get tested so that we have the exact figures and we know whom to treat inside the hospital, whom not to treat. See, there are many factors for hospitalizing a patient. There are many factors for not hospitalizing a patient. See, an oxygen level of 95 plus, you don't need to get hospitalized. If you're not running fever, if you're running fever below 101 Fahrenheit, you need not be hospitalized. You can be kept at home, you can be given your medications, and it can be managed well.
We've seen and heard such stories of this kind of attitude and behaviour being portrayed. One example being where somebody had purchased a private oxygen tank, brought it into hospital with them and had it taken away from them and said it was needed for a VIP. Subsequently, that person who had the oxygen taken away from them later died. I guess the question really is, how is something like that allowed to happen?
The incident that you're referring to occurred in Uttar Pradesh when the son obtained the oxygen cylinder and then it was taken away by the policeman, and then I think stringent action was taken against the policeman later, and it's very unfortunate. See, there is no single point of authority which gives a guideline. So there are many, and it doesn't percolate to everybody, all those who are in power. See, whether to take the oxygen cylinder away or not to take away should be the prerogative of a doctor to determine whether the patient requires it or not. The policemen don't have any role in that. But then it's a big country with varied this thing. Everybody, as I told you, doctors can't be there everywhere. And staff nurses can't be there everywhere. It's very difficult. You are looking at 133 crores of public, 135 crores of public. It's not 33 crores as in USA. It's not a smaller number as it is in the UK. You're looking at a very huge number of population, and at times the authorities are not the real authorities who should be determining what is to be done. So it's difficult to control it at the ground level. Certain incidents are bound to happen. It's a big country, a lot of people, a lot of states, a lot of different attitudes throughout. So in pinpointing one single incident and saying that this is happening, how is this allowed to happen? It can happen anywhere.
So are we saying that actually these kind of incidents are actually quite rare, and the only reason they've been allowed to happen is because doctors are so stretched and so busy looking after sick patients?
Yes, absolutely true. See, you are having final year medical students who have been called in to fill the breach. It's like how do you call it? It's like the Battle of Britain, so to say. It's like the Battle of India. If you can compare it to that, we are on our last legs. We are trying very hard for a pushback against this COVID infection. It's not easy. It's not easy. We know we are fighting a very tough battle, but the one thing that we have to understand is we haven't given up and we shall never give up. We will fight and we will continue fighting till we win. We will be the last man standing, not COVID.
I think it's fair to say that I always admire that kind of bravery and incredible efforts by all frontline doctors, none of which of course can be easy. Just describe what first happens when you arrive at work each day.
The first thing that I see, I try to ask is how many beds are available, because every single day I receive about 200 calls asking for a bed, some asking for an oxygen bed, some asking for a BiPAP bed, some asking for a ventilator bed. So the thing is, first thing is we have to ask how many beds are available so that I can guide those who are calling me up. You can apply through this portal and there is a bed available here, there's no bed available here, and it's terribly sad. The most frustrating thing is when you see a lot of elderly patients on ventilators and you see young patients out there dying. It's very disheartening. Leave alone the age. When you see patients dying in bigger numbers, it's very disheartening. When you see you're not able to, you can't provide care for everybody because there are not sufficient beds. There is not sufficient facilities for such a large number of patients. See, these are facilities are good enough in the regular times. They are more than good enough in the regular times. But this is a tsunami. You can't you can't prepare for a tsunami unless the tsunami has hit you once before. And the once before happened 100 years back. So nobody thought it could happen again and with such ferocity. That time it was 1/3 the population of India which got decimated. This time it won't be that much. That much I can assure you.
And just lastly, Doctor, how optimistic are you that this situation really will get better soon?
Well, I'm pretty optimistic. I see that the vaccinations are being done. You see, the number of vaccinations, if you look at it, the absolute numbers are huge. The proportional numbers, as far as the percentages, might be lower because then, as I told you, we are a huge country population-wise. So it is going to take some time getting everybody vaccinated. And post-vaccination also, some cases, you do have a infection, which is not usually fatal. But you do have even post-vaccine, there's a small percentage. But getting the vaccine to everybody, and as of today, I saw the new Sputnik Light, the single-shot vaccine has been approved. So let us see if everybody gets vaccinated, then the chances of it going away are pretty good. Even then, my 2 bits, I would say that by the second week of June, we should be out of this tsunami. But we should be preparing for the next wave, which could hit us somewhere around September. That's my guess.
Doctor, it's been really interesting talking to you. Thank you very much for joining us here, and a huge thank you to you and your team for all the work that you continue to do.
Thank you so much, Vishal.
Time to take a very short break now, but when we come back, we'll be joined once again by food blogger Sonali Mojaria. So join me in part 2 to find out exactly what she's making this week.